Hey everyone, it's me Lone. Hope you're doing alright. If you can't tell, I'm in a different setup today, and that's because I'm actually in the UK. For the next 2 weeks for work, I'm going to be here in Manchester, and then after that, I'll be in London for about a week. So hopefully this temporary setup looks and sounds okay. Let me know in the comments if you need me to change anything at all. But I do apologize in advance for any street noise that you're probably going to hear in this video, because I'm right in the city and it gets very noisy, in particular ambulances. There's like 1 or 2 every 10 minutes. So hopefully it's not so bad. But anyways, let's talk about this Bethesda and Starfield situation in a little bit more detail. And if you missed it, of course, Bethesda the other day announced that Redfall and Starfield have been delayed to the first half of 2023. And in my previous video, I talked about the knock-on effects that the delay to Starfield could have on BGS's upcoming games, namely Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. And the way I summarized it in that video was that if BGS stick to how they've traditionally developed their games, 4 to 5 year development cycle, etc., maybe even longer now, we probably will see Elder Scrolls 6, if Starfield's 2023, we might see Elder Scrolls 6 in 2028, maybe 2029, and if that's the case as well, then Fallout 5 is probably going to be 2033, 2034. So it's obviously a very long time, and it's got me thinking about how long it actually has been since BGS has released a single-player open-world RPG. And that was Fallout 4 back in 2015. And this delay to Starfield has really personally got me thinking that I want Bethesda to start changing how they develop their games and approaching their projects. And it's in several regards. First of all, let's talk about a game like Fallout 76. Now, for the purposes of this video, we are going to be calling Fallout 76 a spin-off project, an experiment for Bethesda, because that's what it was, right? It is not a single-player open-world RPG. BGS clarified publicly, and Todd said publicly multiple times, that Fallout 76 and creating a multiplayer game, or, a game where you can play with other people, was something that they've wanted to do for a while. It was on the cards, and at that time, they saw it as a good opportunity to get a Fallout game out that we could all play for years after launch while they developed their next big game in the form of Starfield. So let's call it a spin-off for this video. I think moving forward in the future, especially because of this delay to Starfield, I would prefer if BGS, whenever they do want to do an experiment or a spin-off project that is not a single-player open-world RPG, I would prefer for them to push off that project to another developer within either Bethesda or Xbox and not have them develop it internally. And the reason why is that they've got a lot on their plate, right? And when Fallout 76 was developed, I've talked about this multiple times now, Fallout 76 was absolutely developed in large part as well by the main Bethesda Game Studios studio in Rockville, Maryland. Even though now the Austin studio is absolutely leading the development of Fallout 76, and also 011 has come on board to help, the main studio, especially at the time of launch and especially around the time of Wastelanders, they were absolutely still heavily involved with that game. There is no question about it now, right? So even though it wasn't, a traditional game developed by them, they still very much helped. And because of that, there is zero doubt in my mind that them working on Fallout 76 in that capacity very much delayed Starfield back another year or two. No doubt in my mind that happened. If Fallout 76 wasn't a thing, I very much expect, or I would have expected, that Starfield probably would have been released max, given everything with COVID, probably in the year 2021, so last year, right? Because Fallout 4 was 2015, November, and if they went straight onto working on Starfield after that, at least the bulk of the team anyways, then 5 or 6 years after that point with COVID, I think 2021 last year would have been a safe bet. But because they were working on Fallout 76, all that is done now, as we've seen, is push back Starfield. If it was going to be 2021, let's say it's 2 years to now 2023. And I don't want that to happen again to any of the other upcoming titles like Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. Because now, with Starfield's delay, they're already coming out in a very, very, very long time. Like, we're talking from now, probably six or seven years until Elder Scrolls 6, and another 5-6 years after that. So from today, for Fallout 5, probably another 11 or 12 years to Fallout 5 from today. We're talking a very, very, very long time. And I don't want that to happen again. And don't get me wrong, I do not begrudge Bethesda Game Studios for experimenting and trying something different with the Fallout 76. I do not begrudge them at all. I know there's a lot of people out there that didn't like Fallout 76 and would have preferred that they didn't work on that game. And I totally understand that. But for me personally, I don't begrudge them for trying something new and for trying something a little bit different. They tried their hand at Fallout 76. It didn't work for a lot of people, but it did work for a core community that still play the game today. It has a mostly positive rating on Steam. I've talked about this in the past. It has a solid community. Rough launch, but now solid community, but still with its own issues, of course. So I personally don't begrudge them for that. But I still don't want to see another experiment project if that means we're getting Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 delayed even further. I want to be able to play those games, at least within a reasonable timeline. And if it is now, 2028 for Elder Scrolls 6 and 2033 for Fallout 5, if they were to add and if they were to work on another experiment or another spin-off project within that main studio, all that's going to do is push back those dates even further. And they're far enough away as it is. So that would be my preference. If they want to try another experiment spin-off project with the Fallout franchise or with the Elder Scrolls franchise, let another studio, let another developer within Bethesda or Xbox create that project. That would be my personal preference. But then let's talk about how they actually approach their mainline games in the form of, Skyrim, Fallout 4, and obviously Starfield. Like, I know that BGS, they've developed their games in a very particular way for a very long time. They typically, if you look at AAA studios, they are definitely on the smaller side, especially traditionally. Like, not many people worked on Skyrim, not many people worked on Fallout 4, and they've grown since then. But comparatively, compared to a lot of studios out there, they're still on the smaller side, right? But they have a particular vision. They do it for a reason. They create the games that they do, probably because they built up their team in a certain way for so long that they have a vision. They have someone like Todd at the helm that want to do things a certain way. So again, any suggestion to change that might actually compromise the games that they develop. So I do want to be careful in what I say here. But I still do believe that perhaps they can be a little bit more willing in the years leading up to a game like Starfield to have other developers and other people within, again, Bethesda or Xbox, help them out in the process. Now, don't get me wrong, like, there are definitely people within Bethesda at one stage or another that aren't part of BGS that have helped out on BGS projects over the years. And if you need proof of that, look at the credits for Fallout 76. There are so many people in the credits for that list that don't work for BGS. They are id Software, Arcane, etc. Especially, as a game ramps up to launch, there's a lot of bug fixing that needs to take place. There's a lot of, issues like that that need to be resolved, even though the main bulk of the development is already done. So often you will have BGS reach out to other developers within the Bethesda family and ask them to help out. And that's how those people end up on the credits, because they worked on the game, they deserve to be on the credits. So they absolutely do that now. But what I would like to see is even in the years preceding that launch window, I would also like to see Bethesda try and bring on more and more people. And obviously there are two ways around that. Either you get some, people within id Software, if they have the capacity in other Bethesda studios, you get them to help out, or you expand your team. Now, BGS has tried to expand their team as BGS. We've seen Austin come on board. We've seen is it Montreal come on board, and so they have like four offices now, 4 studios. So they've tried to grow their team as much as they can. And as I've said in the past, it is very difficult to scale up quickly, especially with the way Bethesda likes to do things. So if that's the case, if you can't hire that fast or fast enough, and you still want to try and get your projects out in a reasonable timeline, I would hope that moving forward they would be more willing and able to have other people within Bethesda and other people within Xbox help out develop their projects. I would personally love to see that. And I don't care what the studio is, there's a lot of talented developers within Xbox and Bethesda. I would like to see that happen as well. But then third, I've said this when I talked about Fallout New Vegas 2, let's call it that for the sake of simplicity. I would also like to see BGS offload their IP and their franchises to other developers when it comes to creating mainline games. I'm not talking about spin-off projects like Fallout 76 was, right? I'm talking about mainline games like your Fallout 3s, your Skyrims, and even, yes, Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas was a mainline, franchise for Fallout as an IP. So I would love to see BGS be a bit more willing to let other studios within Bethesda or within Xbox take charge and actually lead a mainline project within Elder Scrolls and within Fallout that's not necessarily a spin-off. So the biggest example that I've given in the past is, get Obsidian to work on Fallout New Vegas 2 or whatever you want to call it, right? I think that is a given. I would really wish so we get another Fallout game before Fallout 5. I really want Bethesda Game Studios to do that. And the fact that Starfield has been delayed another year, I think, in my mind, puts slightly more pressure on them to allow a developer like Obsidian or another developer to work on a mainline game. So I would like to see that, but it doesn't have to be them. It can be Interplay. It can be whoever. There are so many. Xbox has so many studios. Bethesda has a solid studio lineup as well. There are so many people that I think could create another mainline Fallout game or another mainline Elder Scrolls game. And it doesn't have to be called Fallout 5. It doesn't have to be called Elder Scrolls 6 or 7 or whatever. Give it a different name, but we can still get other single-player open-world RPGs from other studios that use Bethesda Game Studios IP, in my humble opinion. And is it going to happen? I don't know. I know why BGS is protective of their IP, and very rightly so. It's their IP. They want to protect it, right? And this is not saying that it's a risk letting another developer create the game, especially if it's one that's proven like Obsidian. But I can understand why they want to be protective of their babies. So don't get me wrong, I understand it, but I just don't want to wait that long until Fallout 5. I don't want to wait this long until Elder Scrolls 6. So that's what I'll say about this situation in Starfield and Bethesda and BGS and all their games. So let me know what you think in the comments below about this topic. And until next time, this has been Lone. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.